I guess this is a new series on my channel where you watch me go insane over my favorite ships, huh? Hey, it's Ali, welcome back to my channel. Toby Fox put out a Blue Sky post right after chapter 3 and 4 came out and was like, oh, I didn't know if you guys would like Tenna. I thought you guys might just think he's just a ripoff of Spamton. And we were all like, no, we know you as a developer and we know where you've been on the internet. We know what you are. You're the type of person who likes to make relationships so devastating, so gut-wrenching that it physically changed the characters to a point where they are now echoes of each other. Toby Fox, I know what you are. Yeah, if you can't tell by this, I'm going insane. And ever since my last couple videos on Deltarune, there has just been this like echo in my head. Ship Spamtenna, ship Spamtenna, ship Spamtenna. And well, here we are. And what's crazy is I didn't really even ship Spamtenna that hard. Like I shipped them kinda, right? Like everybody else is just like, oh, that's a cute ship, ha ha ha, or cute. Cute's a word for it. That's a ship. I see it. Ha ha ha. That's funny. They like act like bitter exes. That's funny. And I wasn't really like a true believer until of course the Spamtenna video came out by V Hoffman. Obviously I'll put it here in the description. That is like required reading. And in that video, required reading is the device theory, which is like 10 hours long. So that plus the hour-long Spamtenna video, plus the Spamtenna supercut video, which is also a required reading. You got like 15 hours of required reading to go watch. Go do it. Go do it right now. I'll be here because like Lord knows this video is probably just going to be glorified fan fiction. I'm going insane. And then of course it didn't just stop there. There were documents. There's a conspiracy board. There's a clue conspiracy board. And I need to talk about it all today because this was intentional. This is one of those things where like I know without a shadow of a doubt that Toby Fox did this on fucking purpose. So let's talk about it. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. The face paint is new. It's new. I got that fucking Athena palette off of TikTok and I haven't been able to put it down. I'm sorry. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about Spamtenna. What was the thing that did it for you? Because chances are if you're watching this, you're already a true believer. And if not, you'll be a believer by the end of this. Can I get an amen? But let me know what did it for you. Was it V Hoffman's video? Was it the Spamtenna supercut video? Was it Toby fucking Fox himself? Let me know down in the comments below. And hey, let's jump into chapter 2. I love a good unreliable narrator, don't you? Funny how we all tried to come up with a bunch of different patterns after chapter 1 and chapter 2, only to then go into chapter 3 being completely and utterly incorrect. And this is the first time, I think in a long time, that I've ever seen a fandom be so happy about getting things wrong. And it makes sense why we would all think this way. Jevil was talked about almost as this cryptid in chapter 1, and then when you finally meet him, he unlocks an entirely new understanding of the world, see device theory. And then chapter 2 comes along and there's this like trash man and a trash can who's like talking in rhymes and riddles just like Jevil did in chapter 1. And you know, because he's kind of insane and he was prophesized in chapter 1 to be in chapter 2, we should pay attention to what he says, right? And especially because you have to kind of parse it out and make your own meaning from it. We were definitely like, oh, we need to pay attention to every little thing that he says, especially when he brings up a person. So when he starts to speak of Mike and this man on the TV, we all collectively went, surely, what is happening here is that this man who had his literal Icarus rings ripped from him seemingly out of nowhere and has gone completely crazy is clearly here to warn us about the next guy in chapter 3, that being the TV. And obviously that TV guy must be even more evil and crazy than we've already seen, right? Nope, just turns out he's divorced and gay. And you know what, honestly, that kind of makes it all the more worse if you think about it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Who even is Spamton G Spamton? Spamton is the embodiment of a spam email. However, he was not always like that. He was an Addison, the embodiment of advertisements in the library internet-specific themed dark world. However, Spamton was different from the beginning. He's always looked physically different than the Addisons. And all of the work that he did never really got him very far. He wasn't that good of a salesman. But he had determination. He really, or what's another word for determination? Because they don't use determination very pointedly in this game. Well, that's another conversation for another day. He had the gumption, you know, he had that gumption. He believed that one day he would make it big. If he just kept trying and trying and trying, surely one day something would work out. And you know what? One day he gets a phone call. And after that phone call, he blows up. He makes it big. He becomes a big shot. He starts making tons and tons of sales of I don't actually know what, actually, do they ever say exactly what he was selling? I know that like some Addisons in chapter 2 specifically sell like specific types of things. Is it ever said what Spamton specifically sells? Like, obviously, once he goes crazy and he becomes a shopkeep, he's selling anything and everything to you, right? But like beforehand, when he was making it big, what was he selling? The only thing I know he was selling was like bow ties at one point, because they mentioned that in which we'll get to that later, and when he was in Queen's Castle. What else was he selling? I know it's probably nothing and probably so unimportant, but it's something that has like stuck in the back of my brain. Like, what was he selling? Let me know down in the comments if you know, or if it's been brushed off as nothing important, you know? Anyway, now he's a big shot and he gets moved to Queen's Mansion to sell his wares there, and now everybody hates him. What? Yeah, and a tactic that I can only assume is to isolate him from his friends and family and everybody that he loves. Everybody kind of starts to turn on him, at least the Addisons do. They see him as big-headed, that he was able to get all of the success seemingly out of nowhere with little to no work. He's lost pretty much everyone, but it does not matter because A, he's a big shot now. Who needs friends at the top when you got all this chromer? That and whatever mysterious artifact thing is in the basement that he found and he keeps praying to. We'll get to that in a second. Because more importantly, the kids bring a laptop home. Now, I am merging two timelines and two different stories of recollections here, so stick with me. In chapter 3, it is mentioned by Ram that Chris and assumedly Noelle would play pretend a lot. At some point, they bring home a laptop, assumedly from the library, to continue to play pretend. Ram mentions Queen on Noelle's side, King on Chris's side, and Tenna bringing up the rear. Now, we do not have time to talk about the implications of this. Just know that my brain is going crazy about it. I have so many different theories. That's another theory for a different day. Just know that this is probably where Spamton met my big boy Tenna. So back to the Spamton side of things, however, keep that in mind. Laptop gets brought home. These two, most likely, meet at that point. Now, seemingly out of nowhere, his luck is starting to run out. He's not really doing his job. That's kind of what it's implied. Before he loses everything, he's kind of not really doing his job at all. Everyone's kind of like, why do you keep going into the basement? Why do you keep praying to this thing? Hey, you need to do your job. And he's not really doing it. He's off in fucking TV world doing God knows what with that fucking TV. He's not really doing his job. So then when suddenly out of nowhere, he kind of loses all of his mojo and he's not selling anything at all. Yeah, no wonder he gets kicked out of Queen's Mansion like very quickly. But before that, let's talk about Tenna. At some point during this, Spamton and Tenna, they hit it off like a house on fucking fire. Okay, they are pretty much everywhere together. And it's very interesting to me that how later on, when we actually do get to play chapter 3, nobody really mentions it. Like, there's a couple of people who have been there for a while, a couple of the Darkners who have been there for a while, who are like, yeah, there was this guy here for a while and he was kind of weird, and him and Tenna used to hang out a lot, and then he just left. But a lot of people specifically don't mention it, I think because they know how like temperamental Tenna is, and so they don't really ever mention Spamton, but they're like, yeah, that guy was weird, but like, I don't know, like, I guess they got along really well and then they didn't. I don't know why it's become such a big thing to the point where now our whole dark world is falling apart. Don't know what the fuck that's about, but like, we don't really talk about it because, you know, Tenna, he's a little sensitive, so all we know is that these two got along very well, and Spamton promised Tenna to teach Tenna about technology. Tenna already at this point was so concerned about being left behind, and we'll get to that when we talk about his character, that he was just like, I'll do anything to make myself stay useful, to stay relevant, I guess. And in return, Spamton wanted to be even more of a big shot. I have a theory on what exactly he wanted later, stay tuned, but he offered him a TV role, a big shot role, who knows? Either way, they had a mutually beneficial relationship, okay? But before any of that could possibly happen, Spamton gets a call. We don't hear what's on this call, we never get to know, but he turns really pale and runs off and leaves Tenna, never to be seen again. And Tenna's like, what? The phone's still ringing, picks it up, garbage noise. And at this point, he has lost all of his mojo, all of his power. Whatever was on the phone did the trick. That whatever was on the phone did that fucking trick, because he gets kicked out of Queen's Mansion with the fucking swiftness. They kick him out so much, in fact, that they rip his name off of anything that he ever had his name on. And that's where the bow tie thing comes in. That's how we know he at least was selling bow ties, because they took his name off of all of the bow ties he was selling. They wanted to get rid of him, which I think is very interesting, because like, okay, yeah, sure, the dude who you hired to like do stuff in your mansion wasn't really doing stuff, but why did you need to go as far as to like erase his name from like ever like existing in the first place. I find that like very, very interesting. But we'll get into all the conspiracy shit later. We're just laying down the facts right now. So he gets kicked out. He has no friends. Remember, all of the Addisons hate him at this point. So he has nobody. And so now he's living in a dumpster. And of course, because of that, he feels betrayed. He feels resentment, anger. Why is he being punished? It shouldn't be him. It should be him. He was betrayed by Queen, by Tenna, by the Addisons, by God. But that's okay. He has a plan. One day soon, he'll be a big shot again. And then fast forward, Chris comes along. A human lightener, whoop-de-doo, but not just any human lightener. A human lightener with a soul. And well, this is the thing that Spamton has been waiting for. The key to his freedom, the key to the Neo body, which is the thing in the basement, the key to his freedom. So, of course, Chris fights Spamton. We all know how the story goes. Spamton loses. And in the process realizes that the key to his freedom isn't another body on strings. Maybe it's just having a friend. Maybe having a friend is enough. Whether or not this is Spamton cutting off his own strings or some other third thing, Spamton finally has what he wants. Freedom. Sorta. Spamton technically already had his freedom, but when he got it, when he became a big shot, he was still an Addison. My theory is that he thought that whatever power that he had gotten was going to give him his freedom, but then he realized that he was just in a bigger, better cage. He was still an Addison. He couldn't do anything more than be an Addison. What if the freedom he really wanted was just to be something more than what the game code told him he could be? And then of course, like I said, the kids bring a laptop home. It is unsure canonically why specifically Spamton and Tenna started to get along so well. Maybe they were just close in theme to one another. Maybe it was the looks. Maybe they just fell in love. Either way, Tenna is a big part of this story. After all, in the end, Spamton felt betrayed by Tenna for some reason, whether Tenna actually did something wrong or he was just perceived as doing something wrong by someone else. My guess is the betrayal that Spamton feels is really just Tenna stopping interacting with Spamton. Horrible timing, but maybe Spamton did try to reach out to Tenna after he lost everything. And for some reason or another, that call never went through. It never either got through to Tenna or Tenna purposefully ignored it. At this point, Spamton has lost everything and he can't even reach out to the one person who he promised everything with, platonically or not. And he starts to maybe think if he had never reached out to Tenna in the first place, would he be in this position? There's a lot of evidence to suggest that, at least from Spamton's view, Tenna is the one who gave up on their relationship and got out better for it. To that cursed my, why did you change your credit card number without telling me? I thought we had something. I thought we had kids. I thought we had a set, and you gonna tear it all down? Because, and despite of all of this, everything that happened, Tenna still grew. Tenna still had connections. He still had friends. He still had technically the Lighteners. Spamton was the one who was left with nothing. Tenna is even in the prophecy, goddammit. Oh. So what made Spamton go crazy? Exactly. What made him want the body in the basement? Exactly. What made him believe or even know that he would need a human soul, our soul, the player's soul, in order to truly be free? I think that the thing that made Spamton a big shot is that whoever was on the phone gave him the power to understand what is going on in the game. Not completely, just enough for him to cheat just a little to make himself a big shot. But as I said earlier, he quickly learned that this wasn't true freedom. A bigger, prettier cage is still a cage. And then he finds that thing in the basement, imbued with someone's hopes and dreams. Mettaton? Oh, I love you, Mettaton. We'll get back to Mettaton like a little bit later in the story, just for the sake of like explaining things. Don't worry, we'll get back to Mettaton. But this thing that was imbued with someone's hopes and dreams of a better life, that paired with a human soul, hey, put two and two together, what do you get, you know? Somehow, some way, Spamton believed that that was the way to obtain whatever true higher form he saw that was not just being the biggest and baddest Addison. I think it's pretty clear at this point that Jevil went crazy due to learning the truth of this world. How many layers deep that is unclear. Does he know about the player, or that he's an NPC technically, or that this is all just a video game? It all seems plausible. And of course, if you want to know more about all of the layers here, I highly suggest you check out the device theory, right, by Molly Stars that will give you everything you need to know about the possible layers that we have here. And the question is how many layers did Jevil like learn about till he went crazy, and then how many layers did, like, because technically Sham also, I think Sham knows a little bit, I could be wrong about that one, and then also Spamton knows a little bit. But the thing that made Spamton go crazy wasn't necessarily that he learned the truth of this world, is that he learned the truth of this world and then couldn't do anything about it. It's like learning that we all live in a simulation and then being told, like, yeah, okay, now you know all the secrets, but you can't do anything about it. You have no free will. In fact, you have like anti-free will, like you being an NPC. I think the whole thing about like being an NPC is the thing that like made him really go crazy. And of course, being isolated from all your friends and loved ones. Spamton lost all of his friends at once. He lost a person he was in a relationship with, only to find out later that that person technically is more important than you and is doing better than you. And what, did he like use you to get ahead or something? Like, and then just dump you when you were no longer useful? That you were somehow unimportant in the grand scheme of things to not even be thought about or to be checked up on. So you should stop trying to be so important lest you be corrected. You are an Addison. Why would you try to be anything else? We, the player, have primed ourselves into believing that the big bad of this world, Tenna, is this horrible, irredeemable monster, master manipulator person, to the point where in the beginning, when Susie and Ralsei are having their little conversation and it gets really melodramatic, I genuinely, because of how melodramatic it got, I thought that like Tenna was the one like manipulating their emotions. Like, that's what I thought he had the power to do, because that is how primed I was to thinking that he was the most evil scum imaginable. And then we get shown more of him and he's like, okay, he's like a little crazy, and you know, has some nefarious intentions that we don't necessarily know about and is clearly working for somebody, but like either he's more depressed gay uncle than anything. And as we get to know more and more about him, it's very clear he's just trying to prove himself to a family that was too broken to even notice he was crying out for help. Tenna is the Dreamer's old TV. Hometown itself has a very early 2000s sort of vibe. Like, the internet is widespread, but it seems that only the richer people, or better off people, I should say, like the Holidays, and maybe at some point the Dreamers, have home computers. Even still, Tenna seems even older than that. Maybe something the Dreamers had before Chris and Asriel even came into the picture. I say all of this because Tenna really feels like he's a part of the family, and he has no idea where everyone else has gone. What happened to Des, where Asriel went, where Asgore went. He does, however, seem to know about the impending doom that was Asgore and Toriel's divorce. So he knows everyone kind of intimately, at least a version of them. Their likes, their dislikes, what they used to love to watch, anything that would be in earshot of a TV, you know, like arguments. At this point, he's used to the fighting. He's used to strain, and he's always been there as like this solid rock that the whole family could just lean on and gather around. After all, everyone loves TV. We meet Tenna in a manic state not too dissimilar to the one that Spamton was in, talking really fast in a very showman style, kind of like they have something to prove, and as we know, well, the both of them do. As it becomes clear at the end of the chapter that Chris was the one who put Tenna up to these shenanigans, it's also becoming clear that Tenna complied because, well, he really wants to so badly to be needed again, to be loved and appreciated again, to be told that everything will go back to the way that it was before. And I have a theory, and like I said, this goes into the theory that I want to talk about another day, that is more about Chris and the feelings of like nostalgia and possibly a time loop theory. We're not going to talk about that right now, but the idea that Chris maybe used Tenna in a not so like great way of just like kind of saying or implying that like, hey, can you do this thing for me? And knowing that Tenna was going to say yes because Tenna wants to be needed so badly. That doesn't mean like Chris hates Tenna by any means, but it's just kind of like Chris has a very clear agenda, whether or not it's because of whatever is going on with Carol and them, or the night and them, or like whatever. That's again, different story for a different day that involves time travel, I promise. Whether or not, whatever the case may be, definitely Chris used Tenna in that way, and then kind of, I won't say wouldn't care what happens to them, because you can still choose to save Tenna in the end and give Tenna to Spamton, but still just kind of like, I need you to do this thing for me, and I know you will because you're not going to say no, which is like, come on, Chris. Come on, the TV, come on, man. And of course, Ralsei doesn't really help with this either. When he talks about how he just wants to be wanted so badly, Ralsei is just like, well, your time is up. You're here to quite literally serve the Lightners, and when you are no longer of purpose, well, goodbye, you know? And of course, Susie steps in to stop that nonsense, but like, it says a lot, and we'll get to Ralsei later. He's actually very important in this. But it obviously does not help because Tenna has such an already very fragile mindset. He's not evil really at all. He's just desperate. Everyone has left him, and honestly, that kind of started with Spamton. This becomes punctuated, of course, in the green room. In the S-Wing room, we see echoes of what once was or what could have been. It looks like maybe it was once lush and fancy, and now it's just been kind of left to rot like a dump. Tenna and Spamton must have gotten along, like I said before, like a house on fire. They feed into one another. Like, look at these posters. The fact that both of them talk about cars and freedom together. They had an entire life planned out for one another. They had a mutual interest in reinventing themselves. If only he hadn't abandoned me, my old partner. I was gonna put him on TV, make him a star. I gave him everything I had, my life advice. All he had to do was tell me what his little secret was, his secret to being a big shot. It took a little sweet talk, but just when I had finally gotten him to sign the deal, he suddenly had to take a phone call. But when he picked it up, his face turned pale, and he ran right out of the room with the receiver hanging. So when I went to pick it up, thinking it was finally my chance to be a big shot, but there was nobody there. That little freak ripped me off. I wish they never brought that laptop home. They wanted to, in a sense, rise above their original stations. They could be both so much more than just an old TV and a spam email. And Spamton, he saw it. He knows how to get there. He knows how to game the system. And of course, he'll share it with Tenna. After all, they are partners. And so Tenna builds this entire life for them in the TV world. Multiple green rooms for the both of them. A mail room just for Spamton. Something that is very reminiscent of those like live, like let's read fan mail kind of segments you would see on like early television shows. Something, Tenna becoming a permanent fixture in Spamton's life, something. But just as everything is coming together so perfectly, suddenly he's gone. And you don't know why. He just got a phone call and left. No explanation. Barely ever hear from him again. You try to pick up the phone call after him to be like, hey, is this the guy you were talking about who gave you all of this stuff? And you pick up the phone only to hear that it's garbage noise on the other end. Was he just messing with you? He's just gone, like everyone else. All right, so here's where things are gonna take a little bit of a turn, so stick with me here. Like I said before, I think it is very highly plausible that Spamton actually did reach out to Tenna after he lost everything. Like maybe it was just one last Hail Mary to somebody who you think would care about you when everybody else didn't. Maybe Tenna didn't answer, maybe the phone call didn't even get to go through. After all, he left Tenna with no explanation. Left him to rot, and then Spamton took that personally. They both took it personally, honestly. Or, like I said, for some reason, Tenna never got the phone call. After all, how exactly would Spamton reach out to the TV dark world? And that's why he thinks it's all Tenna's fault. Why every single time he talks to somebody, he has to mention that damn CRT. Unprompted. Like something a bitter ex would do. And trust me, Tenna is no better. Bro, you made a paper mache head of your ex specifically with a small nose for you to destroy. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's totally something ex-partners would do. Ex-business partners. Sure. On top of that, these echoes of Spamton are everywhere. It's almost as if Tenna never really moved on. Or that he's just constantly stuck in the past, thinking that someday it will all just come back and fix itself. There are quiz answers talking about Mr. Email, as well as a constant jabs at an email guy, an empty room, but a room made purposefully for the mailroom guy. That Tenna visibly deflates upon realizing is empty, almost as if he was expecting someone to be there. Now, this section is shown at the beginning of the chapter, I think specifically to kind of lead you into this false sense of like, how that's the mail room. He didn't get any fan mail because Tenna is this guy who's like washed up and nobody really care about anymore. And so, kind of funny mail room joke about a TV, right? But as you start to, get really into it, and as email specifically becomes more and more prevalent throughout this, and email guy specifically, it becomes very clear that that was about Spamton, a guy that he was specifically trying to keep around. B. Hoffman in their video makes a note of the fact that in the S-Wing room, you can hear the first couple notes of Spamton's theme. I'm gonna yes and this and say yes, it's the first couple of notes of Spamton's theme, And I think that the reality is that you're not supposed to be able to tell that leitmotif. You're not supposed to be able to tell if that is Spamton's originally or if it's Tenna. I have a very, very like feeling in my gut that if you were to somehow ask these characters, hey, is this your like theme? They'd be like, yeah, this is my theme. I made it up. And vice versa. You're not supposed to be able to tell whose is whose. That is how intrinsically like linked these two are. How much of an imprint that they've left on one another. You don't know who came first. That's the point. It's almost like they possibly could have made this thing together, and when they split, now they can't let go of it. They are echoes of each other, one in the same. Just because we heard Spamton's first does not mean that it's his. I would argue that really it's both of their themes. Something that has taken a deep, deep root within them. To the point where you cannot tell where the other ends and another begins. Tenna, much like Spamton, just wishes the two had never met. Wishing that they had never brought home that laptop because maybe you would have never fallen in love with this fucking email guy. Maybe he wouldn't have imprinted so hard onto you that you now cannot get rid of him because you don't want to. I think he says this because they have left such a strong impression on each other that they cannot get rid of. Their mannerisms, their looks, their hopes and dreams, they mirror each other. They both wanted to reach out far beyond their intended use to become something more. They were both each other's hope and freedom, a chance at a new life. I ask you, what hurts more? Having loved so deeply that the person has left an everlasting imprint on you, one you can never get rid of, and to lose that love almost as fast as it happened without notice or an explanation, and seemingly the first domino in a chain of betrayals? Or is it better to have never loved at all? And now, of course, they just cannot stop talking about each other. Spamton, that is a 10-year-old. They have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. Whew, that was a lot. And we're not done. We have reached the halfway mark. How you doing? I like asking. You guys really showed up last video when I was asking you guys what you guys were doing. If you guys were like drawing or if you guys were like eating or like whatever. You guys came up with some cool things. Some of y'all were making Lego sets. That's cool as fuck. Okay. Some of y'all were drawing characters, whether it was fan art or your own OC. Cool as fuck. It's all cool as fuck. So let me know again. What are you guys doing? Let me know down in the comments below. And of course, time to plug my Patreon. If you want to join my Discord to talk about all things, really we talk about mostly Deltarune over there, but we can talk about anything and everything over on my Discord. You can join that through my Patreon. You only got to pay once for that, and then you can cancel your membership. You will still have access to the Patreon. You'll get discounts on stickers and things that I post in my shop. I will hopefully have 2 different things in my shop, one of those being a Tenna print that I made and another one being a Spamtenna sticker sheet. So hopefully that'll be in the shop soon, hopefully. So if you want a discount on those, then you can join the Patreon as well. A monthly Q&A as well as a book club is what I'm calling it. I am going to be playing through the fucking Danganronpa games because I'm making a Danganronpa video for this month, of course, this nice spooky month. So if you want my first reactions to the game and my first thoughts as I create this video, it'll be up on Patreon. I just posted my reaction to the Homestuck pilot. I didn't even know that was coming out. So if you want my first reaction to the Homestuck pilot, go check that out there. I will also probably be rereading Homestuck on there as well, so like little book club thing going on there. Now, if you want first access to forums, you can also find that on the Patreon. Of course, I put out a forum asking what you guys would like to see this October. I'm putting out a video every week this month. Let's go. So if you would like to have a say in that, and don't worry, any video that's not chosen, I'm going to be doing this again in December as like a final year wrap up fun time thing. So don't worry if yours doesn't get chosen now, but I would still love to hear your thoughts. So let me know down in the forum. That'll be linked in the description. And of course, another thing, my next video is going to be about horror for kids. I lied. She lied. Actually, my next video is going to be about the new Cookie Run Kingdom Beast Yeast update, because I had just made a Beast Yeast video and now the next Beast Yeast episode is out and I really need to talk about it because it changed so much about the lore. So I'm going to talk about that first, and then the video after that will be about horror for kids. So if you played the new Beast Yeast update, let me know your thoughts down in the forum below, and in the next video, watch out for the forum about horror for kids. I will also put the forums out everywhere else as well, like on my Twitter, YouTube post, and Tumblr, and anywhere basically that you can find me, so you can check it out there as well. Hey, thank you, love you. Let's get back into it. So we need to take a little bit of break from them to talk about Ralsei. Ralsei is a character who, as of right now in the story, still strongly believes that his worth is tied to the Lightners, that he should not want anything more than that. Whether that's because the prophecies told him so, or someone else told him so, who knows? After all, the Lightners gave you purpose, so who are you to try and defy that fate? However, thanks to chapter 4, we know now that there's a lot of themes of carving your own fate and making your own way and defying prophecies and things like that are going to be a huge theme in Deltarune. And we are starting to see the inklings specifically of Ralsei becoming that breaking chain. It is very clear that his story arc is kind of getting to the point of him wanting things for himself, wanting to be his own person. And we're starting to see little pieces of that. We see it so far in his room, in the conversations he had with Chris and Susie, and especially when you confront him about looking like Azriel in chapter 3, he kind of snaps at you, saying this is the one thing he actually likes about himself, and to really not bring it up again. That is a boundary that he is stating. It is something that he is about himself. If he really was all about the Lightners, if I told you, hey, you need to change the way that you look for me as a person, or no one was really saying that, but the fact that I brought it up, and well, I say I as in the player because, you know, Chris, I'm pretty sure Ralsei, did I say Azriel? Ralsei? I hope that I was saying Ralsei this entire time. I'm pretty sure that Ralsei knows about the player, right? So I'm pretty sure that Ralsei knows that we were the one asking him why he looks like Azriel. And that was him putting his foot down and being like, I don't care how much like I am beholden to the whims of the player and the Lightners. This is the one thing that I actually really like about myself and that I want to keep, and that is mine, right? Is me. And I think that's very strong. I think that was a very strong, poignant moment that I think a lot of people can miss, but it's a very strong moment of his character development. We see where his character is going. Like, his arc is going to be that he makes that change, right? That he decides that he is going to live for himself. And I think we'll start to push all of the Darkners into this realm of being able to think for themselves and be their own person and have their own narrative, right? However, I cannot help but wonder, what if someone has already tried that before? After watching V. Hoffman's video about Spamtenna, the video that spawned this one, I was left with a stark realization that made me to make this video, that Spamton and Tenna already tried that. They tried to break free, Spamton specifically, and he was punished for it. He was given knowledge by the world, probably by God, or Gaster in this case. And when he tried to use that knowledge to become his own person, to do things outside of his programming, his wings were cut off, his strings pulled taut. He wanted to teach Tenna about email and the internet, and in turn, Tenna wanted to make Spamton a star. After all, he definitely has the personality for it. In fact, they were both stars, and God did not like that. And what if whoever was running the show, assumedly Gaster, prevented Spamton from using the power that he had gained from him to really change anything? Think about it. They both wanted to become something more. Both of them wanted to be something other than an old TV and an email. And it seems like once you know the truth on how to do that, you get punished for it. But not like in a I'ma kill you and erase you from the narrative type of way, but in a I've already isolated you, I've given you this power, but I've isolated you from everybody that you've loved and you've known. So just in case you try to pull something like trying to become more than what you will, I will take this power away from you, the only thing you really have left, so that when that is gone, you are left with nothing. Nobody wants to be your friend. Nobody wants to hang out with you. Nobody is going to believe you. Happened to my good friend Spamton once. And in that vein, what if Mike is Gaster? I know. Stick with me here. You're already here. I locked the door on the way in. You can't get out. You're stuck here. Mike is the only one in the situation that both Tenna and Spamton said did nothing wrong. They still love Mike, even though no one knows who that is. We find out at the end of chapter 3, they may not even exist at all. So who is Mike? Seriously, I'm not trying to add to the conspiracy board, but both Spamton and Tenna both refer to Mike very kindly. Now, Mike could be an analogy just for their relationship, especially their relationship during a specific time in their lives, like, you know, what used to be, what once was, and they look on that time finally, and somehow, some way in their brains kind of make that into a person, a being, right? Or Mike could be Gaster or just someone, it could be friend too, who's like whispering in each of their ears a little bit of dissenting to the both of them to kind of drive a wedge in between them. I mean, it could be anything really. At least to me, it's very clear either way that they were manipulated into hating each other. This is like a miscommunication trope on 110. And to the point where it is like their personalities were preyed upon. Knowing Tenna isn't going to confront Spamton on anything. Like, this is a miscommunication trope that, like, had they just talked to one another, we'd probably find out a lot about why they believe that the other one betrayed them, right? It seems like there's some other person or entity involved that prevented them from actually like talking to one another. So what the fuck was that about? However, very easily, we're at the point now where Spamton could have a conversation with Tenna. Tenna and Spamton can have that conversation. We see during the whole like Peepus thing that like if you have Spamton with you, Spamton will come out and be like, hey, like, oh my god, like, let's have a conversation. And Tenna immediately freaks out and like sprays. A lot of people have analyzed this into being like, yeah, maybe Spamton just looks completely different than how he used to, or Tenna specifically just didn't want to confront anything and just is kind of running away from all of his issues. Like, and we see that that is highly plausible by the way he acts in every other situation, right? So it is like a very good running theory that like Tenna could have talked to Spamton in that moment, but enough of the manipulation and just knowing who these characters are, Gaster has been able to just drive that wedge between them that they could fix themselves, but maybe never will. But that is okay. There's still a happy ending for the both of them, kinda. Spamton can go with Chris on this adventure, and Spamton sees Chris as a true friend. And Tenna, despite being destroyed and, you know, patched back up, is still useful to somebody. That somebody being Mettaton. Oh, that was my favorite part of the chapter, I think. I think my favorite part of the chapter is the fact that you get to save Tenna, and if you save Tenna, you can bring him to Mettaton. And Mettaton has their like gay trans awakening, whatever the fuck, like watching whatever version of MTV they have in Hometown. Oh my god. Yes, I am a Mettaton and Tenna truther, even though Toby Fox himself says that he loves the toxic yaoi more than he loves like regular wholesome ships. Okay, I know you, Vriska fan. Call that the Homestuck in him. So anyway, that is the story of how and why I think Spamtenna is specifically canon. These are their stories that are now so intrinsically linked with one another. But if you somehow are still not convinced, but wait, there's more. Spamtenna is real and Toby Fox said so. Also, speaking of the 10th anniversary live stream, what the fuck was that? Like, thanks for emotionally wrecking me again, Toby. Cool. Now, of course, none of this is really like canon or anything like that, but why would you mention Deltarune shaped things if not Deltarune, you know? I think at this point when Toby says something isn't canon, I think the like actual like thing of like, oh, this thing is not canon, but the themes and ideas that it gives you, as we've now learned from the 10th anniversary, are very important. And so you should hold on to those, even if the idea of Noelle being in the fucking underground in Snowden isn't actually a real thing. And also randomly dropping the confirmation that Tenna is indeed a service bottom. How tall is Tenna and how much his size can change? Tall enough to be a giant, handsome, apron-wearing older husband, and small enough so that he can be a glooby, cute pet that can be kept in a cage. Is that an answer? Toby Fox, is that an answer? That was completely unprompted, by the way. Like, thank you for matching our freak, though. Speaking of freak, Toby also talked about Alfine during that live stream, and also Meta Pants, and he says he likes that ship more than Nice Pants. We're gonna have to fight. We're gonna have to fight, okay? Which is funny because I think Nice Pants is like almost canon. Like, at least it's one-sided so far in Deltarune. Like, I guess he was talking specifically about Undertale, because Nice Pants did exist in Undertale as well. But it's like, then why would you make it like semi-canon in Deltarune, sir? Oh, whatever. Toxic Yaoi King, thank you. I say all of this to say that yes, Toby Fox absolutely knows about Spamtenna and is actively feeding into it. Exhibit A, this picture. This item is the fastest selling fan gamer item of all time. What does that say about society? I don't know, man, that you know how to make really good toxic ships. I think also the fact that Toby Fox mentions Nice Pants and mentions Meta Pants or whatever the fuck their ship name is, but specifically never ever mentions Spamtenna, leads me to believe that there's still more that we have not seen about them just yet. Because Granted, the game has not ended yet, so there's still more we could see about these characters, but especially because you're not mentioning any like Deltarune ship specifically, I do think is like on purpose, especially because there is like romance or just romantic feelings in Deltarune as like a thing. So it is very possible that he is not mentioning these ships on purpose because he knows about them, obviously, because he knows about all of the like Undertale ships, right? So that's why I'm saying that he at least knows about it. Obviously, this tweet being the magnum opus of that. But if somehow you are still not convinced, let's talk about the Spamton fucking sweepstakes. So, the Thorn Ring, a corrupted wedding ring that used to belong to Spamton and used to be a normal wedding ring. But what if it was corrupted once, you know, the betrayal happened? Why would Spamton even have a wedding ring at all is a good question. And also, what is the name of the website that you get to access once you've accessed this page? Right. Yeah, right. Show your devotion, your defecation, to the one you love most with this commemorative ring. If you promise me your heart-shaped object, I can promise you an honest man who will always be there to scream, it hurts, it hurts. What's yours is mine, and what's yours is mine. Don't like it? Don't like it? Then don't worry. Like all of my commemorative rings, just slap it on any hoochie mama, and they will be yours. You just need to change your name to Spamton. It's engraved. The word Spamton is engraved on the ring. I'm just saying, if we get to find another ring later on, I'm just saying, and it leads to the damn you Tenna's page. That damn boob tube. You're the one that should be having a refreshing night's sleep in the recycling bin. Everything is his. Everything is his fault. Pay. Everyone is going to pay 5 easy payments of $9.99 until they're all in the disposal area begging for my beep. Everyone except Mike. Right, okay. Spamton, what is your opinion on MLM, multi-level marketing businesses practice? A real business-loving businessman, unprompted, has no need for practice. He just goes right in there and invest. And if I get kissed on the mouth doing that, you just have to take it, right? Okay, yeah. Right. And of course, do I have to mention the numerous types of songs that they have together? Like, here's just a like rolling clip of them. Thank you, Spamtenna supercut video. It'll be linked in the description if you want to see for it yourself. Now, however, there's a song on the chapter 3 soundtrack that I wholeheartedly believe is a Spamtenna song, but I don't really have any evidence for it. I'm just like this meme. I can't prove it other than like kind of vibes, but like, again, you're already here anyway. The door is still locked. You can't get out. So just hear me out here. Paradise. So we know that South of the Border is a song that is used when you find the secret love island, right? And we know that Spamton also mentions South of the Border in the Spamton sweepstakes. Check out V. Hoffman's video if you want more an in-depth analysis about that. But I take that and raise you one better. Paradise is a Spamtenna song. The board where you can not only find the love island in the first place, but is also the board where your job is to get back together a broken El Nina and La Nino. And of course, this is all mimicking the Dreamers like divorced couple and stuff like that. But I think it's very prominent also the fact that like we have 2 sets of couples here, one that has been interrupted in a good way by a third party. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying, if Mike does turn out to be a real character, them having a throuple would make it so much sense. There's already like a narrative reference to it. But also Paradise is such a sweet and happy song, like a summer love and all that jazz, in a before it all went wrong type of way. And you know, I don't know that much about music, but in this song, there seems to be 2 different types of melodies going on, almost as if there are 2 different types of people singing to one another. And one of those slowly starts to pitter out towards the end of the song, while the other one is kind of singing the same melody over and over and over again. Now, this may sound kind of crazy, but it's not the first time Toby Fox has put lyrics in his songs that don't actually ever like show up in the songs themselves. Like, none of the songs actually have lyrics. Like, no one is actually singing in the song, but the songs do have lyrics to them. So it's not crazy to think that this song could be 2 people singing to one another, one petering out by the end, one repeating the same type of chorus over and over again. Look, like I said, I don't know much about music other than how to shittily play the guitar, but it is there. Regardless of how you feel about this ship, IDK how you got this far into a video that is essentially fan fiction, but go off, king. Regardless of how you feel, you cannot deny that there is something a little bit queer going on in Deltarune as a whole. I made a whole video about it, of course. And also specifically with the two of them. In fact, I'm not the only one who sees it. There's this lovely thread by Toby Misa1 on Twitter where they talk about the theory that Spamton may be transcoded. Remember, it's too late. I've locked the door. You can't get out. Spamton mimicking a lot of Mettaton's themes in terms of getting a new body. A lot of references to Mettaton overall. Spamton's puppet-like appearance that Chris seems to be disturbed by, and I already talked about their non-binariness and like them not having any agency because of us the player in a whole nother video. You should check it out after this one. But also, in relation to that, the dummy motif played in Spamton Neo's song. Anything with puppet/real boy imagery is automatically transcoded. Sorry, I do not make the rules. I skimmed a little bit through this thread, like giving you a summary here because I do want you to go check it out for yourself, support the original author and all that. So that'll be in the description as well with any other video that I've mentioned in this. And of course, shout out to Vampin Vogue on Twitter for making the clue board. I love your clue board. Thank you. And of course, thematically, we know the feelings of divorce are very rampant throughout this. Like, no straight couple, no adults either, like no adults and no straight couple are allowed to be happy in hometown. And a lot of these relationships are broken due to a miscommunication and a lack of want to talk to one another. And I say Asgore and Toriel do have a miscommunication going on because at least for right now, it seems like Toriel doesn't really know what happened in the bunker, whereas Asgore does. But I don't mean that in a way that like, oh, if they clear up this miscommunication, they'll get back together. I don't think so. I think Toby made a very deliberate stance and being like, it's very clear that these two had other issues going on other than what happened in the bunker that just happened to be the last straw, whatever got him fired. Because arguing doesn't just happen overnight, right? Like one big argument. I mean, that sometimes happens with divorce, but it's usually something over a long period of time. And then there's usually one big catalytic event, or not even a big catalytic event, usually a small one that leads to people getting divorced, right? So I'm saying that the bunker may have been that catalytic event that like led to their divorce, but it's very clear their relationship may have been on the rocks beforehand. So miscommunication, but like much like the end of Undertale where that miscommunication was kind of like resolved in the end, it might get resolved for the sake of the narrative, but I don't think that means they're going to get back together. In fact, they definitely should not. And then of course, El Nina and La Nino, they are also like a divorced couple that like kind of found their way back to one another, but only because of a third party. I find very interesting. So Spamtenna being that like 3 for 3 kind of like divorced couple energy and like the third like layer of like divorcee makes a lot of sense. And I also don't think that they're going to get back together. Number one, because of in one of the endings, you do get to give Tenna to Mettaton and that's a whole thing there. But also I think because that ship has kind of just sailed. Like it'd be great for them to have more like, you know, conversations with one another, but I don't know if they're at the point where they could ever really get back together. And maybe more interestingly, narrative wise, if they're able to move on. Again, just to give you a little teaser of what I'm thinking of with my whole theory, I'm gonna drop this bomb and then move on. I do think that Chris is resetting the game every single time in an attempt to save Des. There's a lot there to it, and there's a lot of different reasons why I think so, but I think that's happening. I think a big theme of the game will be moving on and needing to just move on with your life and, you know, grieve and let go. And I think that has a lot to do with the game so far, without even bringing up the whole time travel aspect of it. I say all this to say that I think Spamtenna is something that both of these characters need to move on from, not necessarily get back together. It was great. It was awesome. It's over, you know? But like I said, there are no happy adults in Deltarune at all. I would have said Gerson, but we just found out in the Undertale live stream that he used to have a non-binary spouse who is now dead in the war. So no happy adults in Deltarune. Lastly, my very last piece of evidence is this picture. Yeah, hey Toby, what the fuck is that? This picture, this is what drove me over the edge, by the way. This is the picture. This is by Corey Zadori on Tumblr, and they basically posted that the trash heap in the trash heap section of Undertale in the waterfall, which like again, we don't know where this waterfall comes from. where the beginning of said waterfall starts. So in this trash pile, we see things such as a broken TV with a cleave down the middle, a mailbox, and a old video game cartridge. And someone says they can see like a doll in there as well. And of course, this has led an entirely different like spin-off of people like talking about this and making Undertale like AU versions of Spamton and Tenna, and it's so fucking cute. I love it so much. I'll put it up on the screen. Anyway, yeah, this is the thing that drove me off of the edge, because we now know that Toby Fox has done so much, because like obviously Deltarune came first. If you didn't know that, like Deltarune was the game he was going to make first, and then decided to make Undertale instead as kind of like almost a prototype in a way, which is crazy to say that Undertale is a fucking prototype, but like and kind of like a proof of concept, like of I can do this, I can make this game, I can make a game at this scale that has a lot of these like new ideas and mechanics that I'm thinking of in my head, right? So a lot of Undertale has a lot of themes. Like we see a lot of people saying that like, you know, Deltarune is a sequel or a prequel or like whatever, a parallel story is the thing that Toby Fox actually said. So we don't know if that can still mean prequel or sequel just yet, but a parallel story is very interesting. So it's stuff like this that you, in a vacuum, maybe like that has no bearing on anything. Like, what are you talking about? But like, given everything that we know now, all of the references that Undertale has to Deltarune and vice versa, this doesn't seem like a coincidence anymore. Like the only like argument against this you could say is that like, oh, it was drawn by somebody else, but like Toby had to tell this person what to draw. And the like fact that you can specifically make out a broken TV cleaved down the middle in a mailbox, I just, like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck? The fact that it's called a trash heap, something that Spamton uses a lot, like, this is the thing that drove me off the fucking edge. And lastly, Toby knew that we were all going to go crazy over this ship. The fact that he genuinely thought we were going to hate Tenna, I guess as his own character, specifically because we already had Spamton and they were so similar, it was almost kind of like a vibe check. It's like, do you understand what I'm trying to do here, right? Like, yes, Spamton and Tenna, like, are these two different characters, right? But like, do you understand that they are connected in some way, shape, or form? Like, if you genuinely somehow thought that like Tenna was just a ripoff of Spamton, you're not paying attention. We all know Undertale fans can't read, but like, you're really not paying attention. And that's why at this point, it's like a lot of people, I haven't really seen anybody be like, maybe they're just friends. You can't do that in this universe. You really can't. But anyway, I'd like to know about Tenna and Spamton's past, their level of intimacy. A flower blooms on the tip of Toby's nose. I'm so happy you want to know. Toby went silent after that. Okay. I rest my case. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. If you did, you are a real one. Let me know how you feel about Spamtenna down in the comments below. Honestly, and if you have any like random Deltarune theories, have at me. I think we're gonna have like an end of year kind of roundup thing where I talk about this fucking time travel shit, because but there's a game I have to finish first before I talk about that. There's a lot of different research that's gonna go into that. So if you want to be here for that, stick around. And if you know you want to talk to me about it, if you want to hear my thoughts unfiltered about it, come join our Discord. We love to have fun over there and scream about every time Toby Fox does something. Of course, you know, there's no pressure to do that. I'm going to see if I can open up channel memberships, either in addition to or instead of a Patreon, because I know channel memberships on YouTube, they can be cheaper, and it's a lot easier to access than say like going over to Patreon, signing up for Patreon, all this other type of stuff. So we'll see if that gets done this month. I don't know. Again, speaking of this month, he's coming. Oh, he's coming. So if you have any thoughts about that, you know, let me know. I'm gonna have a forum about it probably towards the end. This is gonna be like the Halloween episode, so I'll have a forum about that, don't worry. But if you want to tell me about Species episode 11, that forum is in the description, along with the October forum is also in the description if you want to check that out. Here are all of my Patreons. At our little yapper tier, we have Vin T, Adrian N, Soup, Mysterious Chumpet, Yosef, Broken Dreamy, Luna L, AC, Leela L, Reese F, Gianna M, Jester, Mal G, Vivian M, Basil, Aaron. At our average yapper tier, we have Scout, Arapaima S, Twilby, Weirdo, and at our big time yapper tier, we have Covalence and Tybee. Thank you so much, guys. I'm pretty sure I missed my Patreons in the last video. I'm so sorry. I was just like, that video was like so rough to like film and edit that I just like totally forgot about my Patreons. I am so sorry. So here you guys all are now. And thank you so much for coming with me on this ride. It sure was a ride. Oh, things are happening. So thank you so much for watching. And hey, I will see you in the next episode. Love and peace.